everyone. Hi, everybody, and welcome. We were just having a lovely little chat before our class got started. It's December 7th, 2022, about my music and the information that I send out, layered salience, kind of like the way that an oil painting is made out of many layers and glazes. Layered information that is part of or affiliated with just the basic melodic waveform of a song that I make. And that it's also, that is what being a time crystal is. If I grab my lasagna, being a flying rainbow lasagna, this is a dance that you perform across time. I don't really have a formal teaching about calling it a time crystal, and time crystal is one of those words that, like, science has a very particular meaning about what it is, but I've kind of appropriated it from science, the sense of many each time you do the dance or you embody lasagna, or you're having one of these meaningful and significant connections, divine connections with the source and with the stellar consciousness and light, which I will get into and pull up my notes for class for today. You're adding another layer. You're adding a layer of meaning. So in the end, something is not just an object. Like, this is an object, it's a thing, it's molecules. This is a thing, and then it's got this layer of meaning on it, and this layer of meaning on it. And then I was holding this thing while this happened. That's another layer of meaning, and then another layer of meaning. And then time crystal becomes something that is multi-layered. Oh my goodness, this person always calls at the worst times, even though I have the ringer off on my phone. The multi-layered meaning that is affiliated with something, in the same way that a crystal has these many laminated layers. And then also a time crystal, you can view it from outside of the embeddedness of time. The experience of looking at the polygonal structure of what time is, like understanding, I have a new crystal here, what is a crystalline structure, and how do the facets fit together, and how do the structural mechanisms of its polygonal molecular form hold it together. All of that is seen in the events of your life over a long amount of time. So it might not be like, every single drudgeful moment, that not every moment is totally significant. Like every time you're changing the toilet paper on the toilet roll, like I'm just thinking of like the most boring thing that you might do. That is not necessarily a part of like the most meaningful aspects of your time crystal. But every time you make these inner consciousness-based connections to reality, to light, to consciousness, to the sun and the stars, and to your present, to your physical embodiment presence, those are significant moments. All the significant moments are truly tied together. So hello, everybody, welcome. This is level 2, level 2, lesson 6. Formally, this one is called the Sun, DNA, Light, and Interdimensional Ethics. So this actually, oh, Marie, thank you so much. Marie is talking about my music. She says Meta Liberation, that album is your favorite. Thank you so much for that. I really, truly appreciate that. I'm so proud of that album, and it's really, really good stuff. And I love the feeling state of it, and especially that last song called Place of Infinite Value, Home. Like, their synthesizer on there that is like, has so much in it, not just a dry, boring, digitized sound that is of a synthesizer. There's like a lot of heart, like the way that you can make a violin have so much feeling and so much energy in it. Put a lot of feeling and energy into that song. It makes me feel super uplifted to know that I'm contacting and connecting effectively with other people as I send that out. It's why I do it. So I do my music as like a rapport and a connection and a feeling state with my interdimensional collective. And then also, it's absolutely, I have this on one of my websites, homing beacon. Homing beacon. If you affiliate or associate yourself or identify as being part of my lasagna network, Aurora network, the network of star beings, light collective, coherent light beings, homing beacon for you. Like, remember, this is what our world sounds like, and this is what our world feels like. And that song that Chris was mentioning in the chat, oh, I'm sorry, not Chris, read the name wrong. Charlie B was mentioning in the chat, This Is How We Talk in Heaven. That song is very much the feeling of what it is to be part of a floating light collective, and how we float and fly and interact and bounce off of each other. What words fail me, to absolutely words fail me. Just, okay, I'm good. Moving forward. Okay. The Sun, DNA, Light, and Interdimensional Ethics. This has everything to do with me and my journey here as flying rainbow lasagna and how that is affecting this world. And so I will speak personally about my journey, knowing that please interpret that, knowing that it applies universally to your own life experiences. What are some of the takeaways or major emphases of what I'm going to share today? First idea, wait, Cheeky's down here asking for some attention. Hi. First idea is that Cheeky's part of our class and I need to say hi. Sorry for the brief mental interruption for us all. Your DNA is a vibrating string and it has behavior. So it's not even just like a guitar string, as I often use that, or a harp or a piano, some wonderful instrument that is multi-stringed and has layers and layers of complexity and harmonic chords inherent in what it is. It's not just that. What if you could imagine like a guitar or a harp that has strings that literally backbend, fold, arabesque, cut themselves apart, cut themselves back together, and have an enormous amount of behavior. A piano that is stringed in one way for one person, and for another person, they're totally unique. They can be totally unique. So this speaks to the concept of epigenetics, or identical twins who share the exact same genome, same genetic book or scroll in their life, but they don't have the same events in their life. They're not playing their piano in the same way. Their bodies can look different. They can develop different diseases. They are not absolutely interchangeable as like machine parts in the world. There's so much uniqueness, and that uniqueness is also part of the strength of the genetic system. So if you look at a crop like potatoes or bananas, that these two crops are, they are propagated by cloning, not cloning in a laboratory with vats of cell cultures, but more properly, taking a cutting off of a parent plant, putting it in a glass of water or rooting medium and growing roots off of it. So essentially, the plant's reproduction does not include heterozygous mother and father, or male and female, pollen and stamen coming together to make a seed, which is a new genetic combination, like a little one from column A, one from column B, and put them together and you get your baby, which is, got some startling new qualities sometimes. That is genetic diversity. So genetic diversity is preserved through this type of male-female reproduction into seeds. And there's diversity and also strength against something like a virus or a blight. And so this is why there have been problems with the potato famine, a blight that came along and knocked out an entire crop, because the crop was literally all the same, all one type of plant that did not have any genetic diversity. So one little organism that came along that the plant was not able to defend against wiped out everything. And there's a problem with bananas in today's world in exactly the same way. This is why each one of us, embodied humans, has a unique genetic code. Even identical twins have unique genetic behavior. My beautiful little dog down here has her own unique genetic code. Every single tree out the window, I don't have banana trees that are cloned out my window. Oak trees, pine trees, all of these things, pine cones falling on the ground, all of them containing seeds. All of this is amazing complexity. It's part of the beauty of the biological supercomputer that is a supernatural miracle of incredibly complex processing power that we are a part of in terms of our own DNA. Big takeaway. And what that means is, so I have invented and spontaneously created flying rainbow lasagna, and I'll get into real mechanics of it today, it as a tool and as a technique and as a response to some of the genetic limitations that were programmed into this world. Mostly it's been humans that have been genetically modified, although carrots have been genetically modified. They started off as the wild carrot, which is known as Queen Anne's lace. There's little tiny woody roots, not big, giant, long, fat, juicy orange kind of roots that we now know as the vegetable carrot. Same thing with broccoli, same thing with cauliflower. These are not naturally occurring plant vegetables. They have not been created in a laboratory. They were created through selective breeding, okay? So humans have been genetically modified and diminished, and then humans created food sources, including like breeding of chickens and turkeys and things like that, like to have larger breast, like wild turkeys are little skinny things. Turkeys for Thanksgiving are these like big, fat, kind of exaggerated, barrel-chested things that we grow that I do not have flight, but wild turkeys are very, very different. Okay, so you get it, you totally get it. As we were changed and modified, we then changed and modified the plants and animal organisms around us to serve us. But this is not necessarily in conjunction or harmonic partnership with the music of life and the way that we are supposed to be experiencing life. So there were blockages. This is part of the takeaways and synopses of this class for today. Blockages that were placed into the human genome that made it more difficult to connect directly to the sun, the stars, the source, God consciousness. Those are all essentially synonymous, including light. And there, I sometimes draw them as like a blockage up above your head, kind of like a ceiling that you can't get above. Please don't be too literal, because it's a blockage that's, you know, on the cellular level. But it works to think of it like, Chiqui's playing with toy, a flat piece of paper, and you're that little ant that we've been speaking about in this class, trying to walk across, but then you get to some kind of a barrier here. And what do you do? If you're a little ant and you're two-dimensional, it means you're stuck to the plane of time. You can't do anything. There's something in the way. You shrug, be like, oh, well, I guess I won't do that. I guess I won't go in that direction. But instead, if you gain a higher dimension, gain an additional degree of freedom. What you can do as a little ant is jump up and over the blockage and get to your destination. A neural signal, instead of being blockaded here, can jump up and over a blockade, get to where it needs to go. A consciousness signal that is blockaded can get up and over to where it needs to go. So the sun and the stars and the source consciousness and this true divine intelligence has been trying to get lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of messages through to humanity for a long time, since the genetic code was diminished. And because your DNA is an antenna. Another big takeaway, emphasis for today, your DNA is dancing and moving and has a behavior, and it's an antenna. It sends and it receives. It is a bridge of light that is inside of your body. So it relates very much to the path of light. I have a new curriculum, Path of Light. Everybody join. It's really awesome. It relates very much to the behavior of light, the path of light, the path of information, what consciousness and light is doing. So in your own body, DNA is a visible molecule that we can like put under a microscope. I look at it and I see it is there. It's something that definitely exists. Light is a phenomenon that is more difficult to comprehend or apprehend. Slap it between a microscope slide and stick it underneath a lens so that you can magnify it. More difficult to observe, more difficult to know about it. It verges on the intangible and is more difficult, therefore, to kind of like get a grasp on and comprehend. But in your body, there is this intermediary, this antenna transceiver, that is the shape and behavior of your DNA. And the shape and behavior of your DNA gets signals, information, light, consciousness, and behavioral directives from the sun and the stars, and then translates it not merely into protein structures. And protein structures would be something like the shape of your cells or the shape of your organelles, or again, like the shape of your or color of your hair or something like that. But also the shape of your life, the events of your life, the trajectory of your life, the possibilities and probabilities that you are experiencing in time. So when you block out those signals from the sun and the stars, then the DNA does not have these clear directives. And I recorded these lessons 10 years ago. And right now what we have had is not only not just the usual genetic blockages that have been blocking things out, that of course, flying rainbow lasagna allows you to jump up and over, but a whole new set of really fine-tuned, intentional diminishments that are mostly frequency-based and technology-based to block out the signals that come from the sun and to replace it with something that you could think of as an artificial sun or an AI or an alternative signal broadcaster that would tell your body not only how to structure itself, but your behavior and your thought structures and your consciousness and your events, an alternative channel of reality that has been foisted upon this this world, this continuum, put here against your willpower, and that so flying rainbow lasagna more relevant than ever, jumping up and over. So in the recorded lesson from 10 years ago, I speak about my journey, how I came in to this body through this spontaneously invented genetic portal. And what that did was allowed me as a waveform, usually traveling on the network of stars, to be able to come and inhabit this particular body, right? And as I do that, and I'm oscillating back and forth between these two states, you know, I jokingly use the analogy of like, I jump out for groceries and I come back in and then I share the groceries with all of you. What I've been doing is being a bridge to bring in information and messages that have been waiting in your cosmic inbox, that since the genetic diminishment of humanity and of what is known as the human genetic code, that there still have been many, many attempts to communicate with you, many, many attempts to bring in that inspiration and guidance that is really your genetic birthright and what you're supposed to be connected to, your God positioning system. And these messages have all been waiting there in your cosmic inbox. And then when I came in 2001, this oscillative maneuver, jumping back and forth all the time as part of my right to exist, and I'll get into the interdimensional ethics, that's the last part of the title of today's notes, interdimensional ethics, that as I'm doing my genetic oscillation behavior, I'm affecting other organisms and the environment and the structure of reality around me, just as a natural unfoldment, just as a natural causality factor of me being me and me doing this. I brought in all of these cosmic messages that were waiting in the inbox, that is a very big thing. These directives that come from the sun and the stars, cosmic messages in your inbox, information that comes from God and the source. Some of these are directives about like turn right, turn left, go here, stop at the stop sign or something like that. Some of it might be very concrete in its directives. Some of it might be like, here's an idea for a new invention. If you do this, your entire world will change and be uplifted. Or here's a new way to do this, or here's a new perspective on doing this. And all of these are coherence and longevity, life affirming, life aligning with concepts and maneuvers and techniques. The idea is that what is wanted for you is for you to be in a state of total health and vitality, avoiding disease, avoiding chronological aging, avoiding mishaps and accidents, achieving longevity in the state of your biological structure, so that your cells continue to be viable as a container for your consciousness, continue to exist, and that you continue to move in certain pathways, and that you have coherence. So you have longevity and then you have coherence. You go for a long amount of time, like a music that goes and you keep on singing and going, and your coherence being your waves that stick together. And these are all the ideas that were blocked out from humanity. So the way that humanity has been doing things during this time of non-connectivity has not necessarily been the ideal way to do things, not necessarily the ideal way to sustain yourselves, have social dynamics, have industrialization, not necessarily the ideal creation of technology, or I wanted to say gadgets, but humans created a lot of stuff out of the need to survive and out of the need to augment their lives, because they lost a lot of their genetic natural abilities. And so it's not necessarily the best way to do it, but you kind of figured out some ways and kind of like cobbled things together and like made like kind of a jalopy that kind of goes along. Not necessarily the best or most efficient way to do it, but since 2001, all of these messages have been able to come through. And what people of this time and space call it, or the languaging around it, is genetic upgrades and light codes. The sense that information is finally coming from the stellar broadcast and reaching the inhabitants of this planet or of this plane of consciousness in a way that it is nourishing, uplifting, and coherent and makes sense to you, so that you can apply it to your own body structure, your own spiritual and consciousness-based upliftment, your social dynamics, how you earn money, who gets the money, what do you do. That when I talk about industry and industrialization, manufacturing, processes, all of these larger things, all of those things proliferate outward from the internal change and revolution, even in terms of changes in your emotions, your processing, your perspectives on life. So that is, it is a wonderful time. Like, it is definitely a positive thing that I have emphasized in my notes here, and I sent out the notes. Sorry if I'm scrolling. All of a sudden, there opened up a whole new range of genetic dance steps that could be performed by humanity in this time and place. And this meant that all of humanity and all DNA-bearing species on this planet, because you're all connected on Earth right now and throughout the galaxy, would no longer be limited as they have been in the past. So I'm going to supercharge and go forward, fast forward through a lot of things, but hit all of the important points. But one of the important points is genetic connectivity. So your genes are an antenna, intentionally so. You get light codes from the sun and the stars and inhabit and embody them, and then you also radiate them outward. Your thought structures and even what you're doing with all of the movements of your DNA just through your natural cellular lifespan and activities and your acrobatics and tumbling through time, all of that affects other people, other organisms, the past and the future. This goes beyond the sense of, like, I'm pointing to my belly and my womb down here, beyond reproductive cellular structures like the sperm and the ovum. People are very stuck on that, the sense of genetics being a way of transferring information from generation to generation. Grandparents' generation, parental generation, children's generation, kind of like a staircase, a cascade. Information for how to have brown eyes goes from this generation to this generation to this generation, and it's contained in the code of your protein structures. Yes, that is truthful. Genetic information is also transferred laterally while you are alive. So my little dog is down here playing. I do my flying rainbow lasagna all the time in the room with my dog. She thinks it's the most fun because I'm like on the floor. She's like, let's play. This is like rolling around playing time. And I have a housemate dog that's outside in the backyard. When I dance in the backyard, that dog is like, this is great. Like, let's wrestle. Like, this is so much fun. And the trees that are up above me, and soaring majestic hawks and other beautiful birds that are up there in the sky, and even down to the most humble microbe and earthworm. They're all hearing the genetic music that I emanate. And also, so I'm affecting them, but also I'm being affected by them. I'm affected by my dog's playfulness. I'm hugging her right now, by the exuberance and wildness of the dog that is the backyard dog, because the backyard dog has to be in the backyard because it chews on the furniture. That's kind of just like a wild, fun, exuberant dog. I'm affected by them, and they are affected by me. So now we get to levels of interdimensional ethics. And this is really, I'm going to focus on this, and I'm going to focus on the sense of unconditional love in this teaching. This looks white because it has lots of minerals in it. Is my wonderful structured mineral water. Thank you for understanding. This is totally a marathon for me. Like, my brain is going so fast. I need to drink minerals. Okay. If you guys ever have played a guitar, the guitar has the phenomenon of sympathetic vibration. If each one of the fingers of my hand represents a guitar string, if I pluck this string over here, it makes the atmosphere vibrate laterally, and this string and this string, and even this little pinky string that seems far away, they all kind of vibrate and ring harmonically, because even though my finger only touched this string, all of these guys are getting vibrated too. This also speaks to the phenomenon, if you've ever seen many different metronomes. Metronomes are timekeepers, click, clock, click, clock, and that's for keeping time with music. Many of them on a table. And if they're not synchronized, like they're all going at their own unique paces, what happens after a certain point is they transfer energy to each other, and they all synchronize. The ones that are going faster go a little bit slower, and the ones that are going slower go a little bit faster. They transfer through the medium of the table, which is where they're connected, and they all end up synchronizing. This is what happens in the genetic code. So your genetic code is an antenna. You're supposed to be getting information from tap, 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 the great conductor in the sky, the sun, which is our nearest great conductor, but really the supermassive black hole, which is a highly intelligent presence at the center of our galaxy. It's so intelligent that it can coordinate all of the musicians. I'm pretending that I'm the galactic conductor. All of the flutes, all of the violins, all of the timpani are all being conducted by this amazing presence conductor at the center of the galaxy. Hold on one second. Someone's going to get a cookie. Hold on one second. supermassive black hole as incredibly complex, great conductor, conducting the incredibly complex symphony of life, which is related to the network of light, that the stars that you see in the sky and the galactic presence that is defined by the light network. It's a giant stellar neurology. And that light is information, intelligence, data, sentience, awareness, as well as timelines, possibilities, and probabilities, and these perfect abstract mathematical patterns and harmonic interactions that the stellar network and that information and the great conductor is meant to flow through our DNA and is meant to enlighten our mind through literally like your Christ chakra here. You eat light. I encourage everyone to do safe sun gazing, and I teach all about that, like not with your physical eyes, but with your inner eye. Eat the light from the sun, and also whatever you eat, sandwiches, dog cookies, whatever that is, it is solidified light. You're feeding your light body. Whatever you're ingesting in terms of intelligence and presence and data, it is making your DNA do stuff. And again, your DNA is not just doing stuff like making your eyes be brown. It makes you move through time. So as you're jumping from time car to train car of reality to train car of reality, moment to moment at the Planck length in a big long train like line of events. As you're jumping from moment to moment or being propelled from moment to moment, you don't have to consciously say, okay, it's 2:29, everybody get ready. We are jumping into 2:30 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump. Like, we don't have to do that. It is something that is happening on a subcellular level where you're doing it all the time. You're grooving. Literally, your DNA has both a minor and a major groove, and this is part of its structure. You're grooving all the time, and that movement is propelling your consciousness through time. And just as an aside, this isn't part of what's recorded in the recorded lessons. And I know that my supercoiling video that I usually share has a copyright issue with it. It's not my video, but I was sharing it for a long time. Supercoiling being the representation of what happens when you take one DNA strand and twist it and twist it and twist it together, and you do get these toroidal shapes. I should grab my torus. At a certain level of supercoiling, you do get toroidal shapes, and any place, you guys are smart, any place you have a torus, you can lasagneify it and turn it into a flying rainbow lasagna. The movement of your DNA is also controlled by or influenced by an even higher level of intelligence. So just as an aside, it's not part of the recorded lesson, but your DNA contains the blueprint for how to build protein structures. And that is a thing that it does. And the RNA messengers come in and they read like the bumps on the grooves of your scrolls of your DNA, and they get the information, they turn it into, you know, a transferable, like a DNA, like a copy, like a Xerox that goes outside of the nucleus. And then they hand it out to the rest of your organelles and says like, here, do this, you do this, you do this, you build this, you build this. But inherent in those blueprints is also time codes. Because sometimes in the folding of proteins, as protein structures are created, just like in complex knitting, like if you're doing a sock or something like that, that has a complex structure where you have to be like, oh, like first the sock goes this way, but then you have to kind of turn and make it go this way. So it makes an L shape as opposed to just like a long skinny tube. Your DNA has embedded within it these time-based codes about how to build, fold the protein structure, and then pause. We're going to have to pause, everyone, and then let this protein structure go like this, then build again. So it's not even just a simple blueprint where you're like, oh yeah, here's how you knit your genetic sweater. Just like put this in, press go, and then you knit the sweater. It's knit, now wait, pause, now knit, now pause, now knit, now pause. There's a rhythm to it. There's a music to it, and there's an artistry to that. Anyone who is a musician knows that there's artistry to the expression of music in your timing. And even if you are not spontaneous in the moment, let's say you are playing the music of Mozart, who's another, like, you know, musical hero of mine, a wonderful, incredible genius, wrote all of this music. The notes are there and the notation is there, but you might make a little bit of a choice. Like, am I going to really linger over this particular chord, or am I going to play it fast? Am I going to really press and emphasize it, or am I going to press it like kind of just midway or not very much at all? These are all artistic choices. And this is part of the artistry of expressing yourself through your DNA, and why I say you are in divine co-creative partnership, both in the creation, structuring, and upholdment of your body, and also your life structures, that you're given these directives, just like organelles in your cell, subcellular aspects of your cell are given directives, blueprints. Here's the scroll, do it like this, but you're going to have to do it like this, then pause, then find the beat, then pause, then do this, then do this. So there's personal self-expression and aesthetics and artistry involved in the choices that you make of how long you pause and how you do this and what you emphasize and what you de-emphasize. And same thing with your life. As you are, so you're given directives, and then you also, as an artist, musician, expressor in your life, you have some amount of personal artistry and choice with the paintbrush of your own mind. Painting with red doesn't necessarily mean everything is fire engine red. It might be a softer red. It might be a diluted red. It might be a pink, like the pink that's going on over here. There are a lot of different gradations and choices that you might be making. All of this that I teach, it is against determinism. Determinism being a philosophy that says that essentially everything in life and all events in reality are already predetermined, like a script that is already written or a book that is already written, and that you are merely like an automaton or chugging along, listening to the directives that are given to you with no personal input of your own. And that is not truthful. And determinism is often called fatalism, as it is related to fate, not that something is deadly or fatal, but that you are fated or determined to experience something. It is often also used in order to belie responsibility. Not my fault. I was fated to do that, but I'm not responsible. It was determined before my birth. So when DNA was first discovered in the 1940s and beginning to be explored by human consciousness, there was this sense of genetic determinism. Well, if you are given brown eyes by grandpa or grandma and by their parents, then you also shall have brown eyes. And like that is partially truthful because you only have a certain amount of wiggle room. But in terms of expressions of something like cancer or diabetes or heart disease, or some of these things that are non-longevity, non-life-giving harmonic songs or aspects of what is going on in your body, you are not necessarily fated to develop these diseases or proclivities, and you have an enormous amount of wiggle room in terms of being able to choose what you express and what you do not express, even to the levels. I was just thinking about this and how, or as I was organizing my thoughts and how I'm going to present things in today's class, even to the sense of decrepitude and chronological aging through time. So there's a UPS truck outside, and we'll see if cheeky BARKS added. People often feel that they are beholden to their ancestry to maintain their ancestral trauma. Remember all the bad things that happened to my people, and even that they are somewhat beholden to the aging process as they recognize it and see it in their older generation relatives. But you do not have to maintain either of these structures, that you really exist in this present generation to be able to heal and end the transference of ancestral trauma. You can remember and recognize and respect that your ancestors went through whatever profound traumas they went through, and I validate that, but you do not have to internalize their pain, sing it as the song of pain, affect everyone around you, including your progeny, as the song of pain, and then carry it on in that way. And same thing with certain aging characteristics, that if you're like, oh, like grandmother had premature graying of her hair and she went gray at age 35, and so did mother, and therefore now if you are the daughter, then you presume, oh, like I'm simply going to have my hair go gray at age 35, and that it somehow is like a connection and a reverence and an honoring of your particular lineage and of the challenges and experiences that those beloved family members went through. But you are not beholden to either recreate their aging process or recreate their proclivities to diseases. I want to really reaffirm this for you. You can still be a part of your family lineage. You can still honor them. You can still love the good aspects of your ancestors, because they passed down to you a genetic song and potentials that can be wonderful and amazing, like your musical talents or the fact that you can do a back bend in yoga or something like that. That's positive stuff, but you might not want to pass along that, receive from them and then exacerbate outward to your progeny or to the people around you the aging process of whatever, osteoarthritis or, you know, gray hair or whatever it is. So Flying Rainbow Lasagna is really about being able to make choices. It is the antithesis of determinism. It says that you're not actually fated to experience all of these things with absolutely no personal control, that there, of course, will always be some things that will be out of your control. Like you will always find a boulder that is heavier than you can lift on your own. Like this is just part of life. But to a large degree, there are many things that are within your control or things that can be influenced by you. And that right now is a seed that I planted or a nourishment that I give to you that is absolute empirical truth. And then it is up to you as to how you internalize that truth and apply it to your life and take it and run with it. But just that changes the genetic behavior of your DNA. Just that thought that your diseases and life experiences and traumas and the reverberations of traumas are not fated to reoccur. You are not fated to re-experience negative time loops from previous generations. You actually have an enormous amount of freedom and wiggle room, elbow room, to be able to make new determinations of what you would like to do. So instead of saying that these are two philosophies like determinism versus freedom, let's fight it out in the fight down all of the ages. And I joke about like world wrestling. It's not like that. It's really levels of development, that the level of development of determinism was a particular level of maturation and growth where it's kind of like shrug, like, not my fault, somebody else's fault. Like, I'm just going to go through life and kind of like bump along. Someone else is making all the important decisions. But really, when we level up and are getting towards the levels of galactic citizenship and claiming ownership of events, reality structures, your personal body, the events that you create and emanate and that you are also a part of, and then also begin to do genetic restructuring or rearranging of events, taking responsibility is all about leveling up to the next level. So when you are a little ant, you're like, oops, I hit a roadblock. Oh, well, shrug. Not my job, not my job. Just gonna stand here stuck. And, you know, I'm not going to do anything about it. When you level up, you become a higher dimensional being, like a butterfly up from a caterpillar. You gain an additional dimension. You can jump off the surface of the leaf. You gain an additional degree of freedom, gain additional degrees of responsibility as well, where you say, I can jump off of here. I can see the totality of all of these events in time. I can jump past this obstacle and make this connection that needs to happen. And then I can also take responsibility for this new capacitation and these new patterns that are happening. That is everything about what I exemplify and everything about what I bring since 2001. So the invention of or spontaneous creation of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna means that there are greater levels of genetic freedom. Add an additional dimension, you add an additional degree of freedom. It also means that there are greater levels of concomitant personal reality, that you take responsibility for the things that you change and recreate. And the idea with Flying Rainbow Lasagna, again, is not that it would be used for some arbitrary self, transformation or sculpting. Like, I want to have 12 noses, I want to have 15 arms, or any kind of, I call it like grotesqueries or huge distortions of who you are. It's really about returning to factory settings, getting back to what your body was really supposed to be like and how your life trajectory and journey is actually supposed to be like before all of these things happened that were inhibitory signals or blockages, blockades from humanity being able to talk to the sun and the stars directly. So I told you that in 2001, I created this portal and I came in here and there have been like 13,000 messages in your cosmic inbox, and now they're starting to flow in. That is what I'm really talking about, the reconnection and re-receiving of all of that information as to how to restructure your body, how to transcend diseases, how to prevent diseases, how to prevent aging. When I say prevent aging, what I'm really talking about is cellular regeneration. Let me drink more minerals. cellular regeneration. And I talk about this a little bit in the recorded lessons, which I emphasize again and again, because I go over them. Then usually the night before I do my class, and sometimes while I'm doing like my exercises or, my dance routine before I get going today on the day of class. Because the recorded lessons are deep, and I connect with my mentality and the feeling state of who I was when I recorded them. And there's a lot of just really pure energy and pristine information in tuning into that time frame and where my mentality was at. So worth it to delve, if you haven't already done it, to access the recorded lessons. In the recorded lessons, I talk about, the sense of, I'm not a biblical literalist, but there are beautiful sharings and stories in the Old Testament, which is the Torah, from 5,000 plus years ago. I think it's 5,700 years ago, talking about a time that is even more ancient than 5,000 years ago, when some of the patriarchs of the Torah lived to like 900 years. They lived an extensive, long lifespan. And of course, this is interpreted in wildly different ways of like, they kept time differently, or a year was different, or all these different things. But here's what I'm really trying to say to you. Although some of the Bible is mythological, may be inspiring to you, and cherry pick the things that are inspiring, because some things are no longer culturally relevant. I'm sure, like slavery, male supremacy, whatever, violence, some of these things that are just not culturally adaptive to whom we are now. Like, you don't have to sacrifice animals in order to worship. Like the Bible is a cultural artifact from thousands of years ago, when humans were less advanced than humans are now, is what I'm trying to say. So please don't internalize too much of those things, but some of it I would like for you to be inspired by, the sense that our body has a regenerative capacity, and that when we live in a pristine environment and in pure divine connection, we literally can regenerate and live and be sustained easily for 900 years. But here's the key. The sun gives us directives. Okay, let's say that there's no blockages, or you're jumping up and over your blockages, and the sun gives us directives about what to do in every moment in order to live 900 years and to be healthy and fit and fantastic the whole entire time. What you need to do is be a dancer in partnership with the sun. So the sun is like, wake up in the morning, you wake up in the morning, and the sun is like, now, and you go over there and walk over to that tree. And now I want you to go walk over here and look at that fish in the river. Now I want you to go walk over here and do this thing over here. Perform activities that would be completely antithetical to the present level of industrialization and commodification, to the present mental state of most humans who are lucky to live 100 years and they live like a very decrepit quality of life. They're like, you want me to walk over to a tree? Like, how am I going to earn my money? I got to drink my coffee and get in my car and get to work right away. I don't have time to look at a fish in a river. Like, you can even tell by my voice, like that's what it feels like. So the longevity and regeneration of our body is innately connected to following these divine directives, light codes and directives that come from the sun and the stars, the great brain, the great thinker, that is not a marionette puppeteer, but is a dance partner that gives you directives. That is the great conductor. Tap, tap, tap. Wake up in the morning. It is now time for you to walk over here. And it is now time for you to go over here. And it is now time for you to go over here. And then here you will do this, and here you will do this. In this time and place now, some people are very beautiful people, and they are following this as much as they can. Like, someone shared a beautiful analogy with me. I don't know if she's going to watch this video, but shout out to Stephanie, about feeling that she just had to visit all of these churches and then make sketches of all of these churches and do all these things. She did a whole like complex like watercolor map, and this is 20 years ago. And then she met someone that was new to our country and was literally looking for a comprehensive map of all churches in the area. And she took it out of her bag. She's like, I just happen to have this original watercolor painting that's an exact map of all the information that you're looking for. Please take it. And so that was an example of like, even, amidst all of the necessities of scheduling, industrialized living, and the way that we have to accommodate the many non-divine behavioral directives. She followed some divine behavioral directives and was hugely rewarded in being able to deliver to someone else, to another organism, a creative expression of divine intelligence that they needed. This is just one example of that. Like, you understand, like, we could use beavers as an example. They get divine directives. They're like, yep, I'm going to need to chew some wood, chewing some wood, chewing some wood. I'm going to need to build a dam, building a dam, building a dam. And meanwhile, from their own inner directives of what they're doing, they are affecting the ecosystem around them. They're changing the course of waterways. They are affecting the lives of fish and frogs and so many other things. So these are beautiful examples of how you are innately connected to your environment and interconnected. So, big takeaway, when you are vibrating your DNA on an abstract level, wait, let me turn on my music over here. Abstract level, playing some music. I hope you can hear that. Sometimes the microphone doesn't pick it up. I'm playing some music and I'm playing with my DNA and I'm affecting everyone around me. And I'm allowed to, because it is part of the root chakra, basic red level, I am lesson of existence. I am here. I am, I exist. I am, I exist. And it's not necessarily a disrespect to everyone else who is also singing the I am song. You recognize that there is interconnectivity. You are, and you are allowed to be. So this also speaks to me as a walk-in and a new genetic behavior template. That, of course, I'm someone and something new that wasn't in existence before, and that it is my right and my joy to exist and to be in those levels of self-expression. I say this all the time. Like, I didn't come here to be like, I'm on a mission to punch people in the face, you know, like, I'm going to make you lasagna and I'm trying to make a mean face or whatever like that. None of that was my motivation at all. My motivation was about personal choice and a personal self-expression. And as I've been here, everything about me, and this also exemplifies my Aurora Collective, who I am on the higher levels of the stellar network, and everything about what Galactic Society is on that level of pure light, it is all done in freedom. So when I do Flying Rainbow Lasagna, I do it in freedom and I offer it to others in freedom. It is a new genetic song that you can play, but I do not force it upon anyone. So this also speaks to my whole approach to being here, my justification for being here, my justification for my activities and behavior. I am like many, many other people that have come and incarnated into this world. They are artists and musicians and writers and scientists and inventors who have their own ideas and their own genetic behavior and their own worldview, and they make stuff. And they send stuff out into the world, affecting other people in the culture that is, or social organization dynamics known as human culture. All right. You're allowed to do this. So you have an I am presence, you're allowed to exist. And so in me coming here, even if I never did a video, just me emanating Flying Rainbow Lasagna waves, that's like this string of the guitar is going to be affecting the other strings, or I'm going to be affecting the other metronomes with my wild Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance. I am definitely changing the fabric of everyone else's life that is here. And that's just part of existence. We are mutually, reciprocally affecting one another. And this speaks to the interdimensional ethics portion of this, that you are here, you have an I am presence, you're allowed to exist, and you're responsible to yourself, and you're also responsible to your community. And these are complementary responsibilities, where really what you want to be doing is doing something that is excellent for the comprehensive whole, virtuous virtuoso, and that also proliferates through or focuses down to excellent for you as an embodied individual. So if I'm like, yes, I'm going to dance a reality into being where there's abundance and peace and our economy is structured beautifully, and then that also proliferates down to my individuated life where I live in abundance and peace and have everything that I need, and so do all of my neighbors, and so does all the wildlife, and so does my dog, and so do all microbes. That is the world that I wish to be a part of, and that I've been consistently dancing into being over these past 21 years. And I often joke that also speaks to like just being silly, like, you know, why don't you just dance a giant golden castle into existence, and then you can live in a giant golden castle? Because this is really the truth, guys. that would be a very, very small reward. Like it would be at the expense of the entire holistic whole. It would benefit me. I might have greater levels of personal comfort or personal whatever elevation and status, but it would be at the expense of everyone else. I would not be truly happy, and many, many other people would suffer. Let me just drink a little. For me, what is of much greater value than a personal castle of gold is to transform this whole entire world, not only our planetary structure, but literally the structure of all consciousness and all time, space, and all dimensionality into a place of freedom. So, I talk about lesson 18, well, kind of like this. Or where did these genetic blockages come from? How come there's a thing here that I have to jump up and over? What is going on? How come I'm just not a light eater? Why do I have to drive my car to the grocery store? All these are very, very fair questions that basically boil down to there have been inhibitors, there have been negative thought entities, unhealed emotional presences, disturbances in the genetic field and the genetic code and the time field itself. The time field itself has had pathogenic structures, disease-creating thought structures. So I talk about this in the recorded lesson too. Cancer is a genetic disease. Your genes are expressors of time, or a bridge of light that ties you together with events in time. Therefore, cancer is a disease of time. And it is. Cancer is a disease that affects the complex genetic tapestry, or the complex interwoven interpenetrating layers of possibility and probability that is the genetic tapestry, that is the time tapestry. Cancer is a disease of time, and that is truthful of all of these genetic diseases. And so these disturbances that end up profoundly affecting either one person or family, or killing one organism, it's not just that one organism, it is representative of a problem that is much, much, much larger. And what I want much more than just a golden castle that is comfortable for me. Golden castle, golden toilet seat, golden pillowcase for my head. What I want much more is for there to be no cancer in the genetic code. That's a much, much bigger thing, because I am all about it. I'm an impulse. Aurora is an impulse. And I travel on these, genetic substrates. I want to be free. I want to be free to travel on these genetic substrates and not have pathogens or pathogenic structures or diminishments or blockades that are stopping my signal strength or preventing me from being able to go where I want to and need to go. And to me, that is much, much, much more valuable than just materialism and personal enrichment. So what I really do is dance in the time field, a rectification dance that sets events in the corrected order, so that there is a totality of freedom, so that it definitely benefits me. I want to dance in freedom, and I also want to make sure that the entirety of the system is upheld in longevity and coherence in freedom. Now let's talk about unconditional love as it relates to freedom, because I also recorded the lesson from a very beautiful idealistic state of the sense of unconditional love and allowing behavioral freedom. Like as I dance in behavioral freedom, and we're at these levels now of leveling up and non-determinacy, moving beyond that, taking personal responsibility, galactic citizenship, responsibility. I'm responsible for myself, and also I live in freedom, and others are free as well. Like I am here playing my genetic music, la, la, la. I exist. And someone else is playing their music. Let's play some other music. They exist. And they are playing their music too. And I smash the keyboard. Some organisms exist, like I smash keyboard, I exist too. And that is their prerogative, that they are making choices about how they exist, what characteristics and traits they exemplify and exacerbate, and how they choose to move through time. These are basic cosmic laws that I speak from in the purity and idealism of my true state. Please know that that's where I recorded my lesson from, and that is where I speak from. But behaviorally, in interactivity with some negative thought entities or residues of consciousness, or shout out to Pedro, the pooties that are on the membrane of death, or some of these very unhealed pathogenic thought forms, literally psychopathology, mind disease, psycho-mind pathology disease, psychopathology in the overarching mind structure that is contained in time. Some of them are extremely pathogenic, and that they are, of course, free to exist, free to be pathogens, also free to take responsibility for their pathogenesis, but they're not allowed to learn their life lessons all over you. This is a big emphasis, because I never want my work to be miscontextualized or taken out of context and cherry-picked in a certain way. Like Aurora says, everyone's allowed to do whatever you want to do, so let me grab my machete like it's stabbing time, like I'm being like, oh, an axe murderer, a happy axe murderer, time to go slashing. Like, no, that is not what I am saying at all. This is not, total freedom is not a justification for pathogenic behavior. And violence is not synonymous with pathogenesis, because, or psychopathology. Some violence can be considered righteous or appropriate. Like if you are living in freedom and someone else that has not yet reached levels of personal maturity, self-responsibility, and galactic citizenship decides that they want to play their own genetic music and start to experiment with either torture, rape, imprisonment, or like macheteing you into tiny pieces, you are not obliged to be like, oh, well, it's a free will universe, do whatever you want to do all over me. No, 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 no. You are obliged to protect your freedom. And in that case, it would be appropriate and righteous for you to be violent in the sense of preventing them from either imprisoning you or harming you or taking your freedom away. But so basically in a state of total freedom, because evil or unhealed thought forms and pathogenic thought forms, they love to play the card of freedom, like it's a free will universe, I can do what I want, grab my machete, time for violence. Being like, yes, they are free to be violent if they wish, and they are also free to take the repercussions of that violence, which is that other organisms also have an I am presence. I am allowed to exist, and I am allowed to continue to exist, and I do not have to exist as a victim or a slave of this other thought form that has not yet leveled up to recognition of unity consciousness, personal responsibility, and the totality, how you reciprocal nature of what you're sending out and what comes back to you, and the totality structures that you're a part of. So they might be down here at, the very beginning, introductory beginner's level of reality experience, and you might already be here at the advanced level. You as an advanced experiencer are not obliged to present yourself for the life lessons of something that is much, much less mature. That's like, oh yeah, I want to learn what happens if I stab somebody to death. Like, you do not have to be their victim. You do not have to be their prisoner. You do not have to be raped by them. None of that, none of that, none of that. In fact, it is much more your personal responsibility to either remove yourself from the situation or protect yourself from interactivity with those beings, or to stop them from learning their life lessons all over you. So first, primary response as a responsive galactic adult citizen would be to remove yourself from the situation. If you're locked in a box together and you cannot remove yourself from the situation, then you would absolutely be ordained or justified in using violence to stop them from destroying your existence or from stopping you from doing what you're doing. And so the whole idea, when you are an activated crystalline network, seeing literate galactic citizen, I'm holding up my Christ chakra here. When you can see through time, you can see the future, and you can see like there's a crazy guy over here. I'm using loose terms, wild, uncontrolled thought form over here that's at some point it's going to decide that they're going to grab their machete and come over here for destructive purposes. Don't be there. Don't be there. Remove yourself from the situation. And you can also be like, let's put a roadblock there, or let's prevent that from actually happening. And then let's also speak to the sense of personal. So this is about love, because love tone affects the world. When you are in love, that loving, unconditional love state with the world, you are affecting the world, even if you don't write a book about it, even if you never record a song about it, even if you're doing it in an isolated cave in the Himalayas somewhere. Your emanations are profoundly affecting the world. In fact, it's one of the most positive, revolutionary things that you could possibly do is to ratchet yourself up into those layers of pure acceptance and unconditional love. But on top of those layers of unconditional love, which is the prerequisite for gaining access to the higher faculties, which is about galactic citizenship, there is the sense of responsibility to the whole. So you're not just like, hey, I'm looking out for number one, I don't care about anybody else, or I'm in such a state of love that everything is fine, and anything that seems to be going wrong is actually a part of the divine plan. You actually get energy that comes up to here that says, actually, there are some things that are going horribly awry, and it is part of the divine plan for me to see them, know about them, and respond to them. So this is about capacitation. If you have the capacitation to see that something is going on and the capacitation to do something, like you have whatever, two hands, or some kind of way to stop someone from taking out their giant whatever destructive sword or weapon or whatever, you're like, I see what's going on, I'm capacitated to stop it. You are obliged, you are absolutely cosmically obliged to intervene because of your interconnectedness to all life, because that is happening in a way that directly affects you. You're not just compartmentalized with things like that guy over there is going to get stabbed. It doesn't have an impact on me at all. It's part of the time tapestry. It's part of the time tapestry. It is part of the network of light. It is part of all light everywhere. So you have a personal responsibility when you can perceive and when you are capacitated to act, not only to defend and protect yourself, but to protect the entirety of time, the entirety of the time field, the integrity of time and events, to protect God consciousness, and to protect the smallest, weakest, or most vulnerable aspects of consciousness that might still be in their levels of development. So this also speaks to the sense of, what if there's either one psychopathic madman or a race, a planet full of psychopathic mad creatures that decide like, we're going to jump in our metal spaceship and fly all around, and we're going to machete everybody's heads off, especially those guys. Those are like the fluffy whatever, like I want to say like the fluffy tubbies, like the nice, we're going to go to planet Fluffy Tubby and we're going to chop off everybody's heads. Like, that is not okay, because planet Fluffy Tubby is part of like the piccolos of the Symphony of Life. Like little tiny organisms, and they're part of the music, and they're essential, and they are made to be these beautiful gentle souls, and they're not made with all of the toothy fangs and other accoutrements that might help them to be protected from these other organisms and these other characteristics. Yes, it is absolutely your higher mandate to protect planet Fluffy Tubs from getting beheaded on a galactic level from the other space races that or consciousness creatures that might be going around exploring levels of personal responsibility and what it is like. So freedom does not mean a violent free-for-all where there are no consequences. Far from it. Freedom is a highly orderly state where there are very real repercussions and consequences to all the things that you do. And this is real cosmic law. So when I teach, I have always had to later explain, yes, I'm teaching from a level of like purity and idealism. And it is very truthful that when you see someone else in their life or another species or group of creatures, organisms, you're like, oh yeah, they're on the path of development. Like, good luck in all that you do. Please keep going, but do it far away from me. And that's appropriate. But again, at a certain point, it's going to proliferate and have an effect on you. Just like in my existence as Aurora, I'm living as a star being, I'm living on the level of pure light. But the things that are happening in the present here now percolate upward to harm or imperil me or the entirety of time or the entirety of divine presence. And that means that it is absolutely appropriate for me to intervene. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is my act of intervention. Like, clearly, this is not something that is like, ballistic weapon or any kind of thing like that. It's not that. It is not that. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is also not a secret. It is not something where it's like, it's only a secret, or if you want to get access to the lasagna, like, you're going to have to go through whatever levels of back bends, and you're gonna have to prove to me that you're worth it, like whatever, give me 20 push-ups and prove that you're worth it, then I'll give you lasagna, or any of these things, or whatever, integrity tests. I created the flying rainbow lasagna, and when you have a thought or something that's spontaneous and new in the world, it proliferates through the entirety of consciousness, because all consciousness is connected. That you're starting to, from this teaching, get to these levels of comprehension where you're like, you're not just an individuated structure. Your DNA connects you to all of these other DNA-bearing organisms in this world or on this planet, and also across time, across vast, almost incalculable to your present neurology levels of time, and vast levels of time moving forward, and parallel realities, because this is really essentially a diagram of parallel realities. Parallel realities, futures and pasts, multiple dimensions. Your DNA is a bridge of light that connects you through all of this. So now you can also see the profound impact that something like genetic modification agenda of whatever sort, we won't even talk about it here. It's Voldemort. It's unmentionable. But a subcutaneous genetic modification agenda that might be ongoing in your social dynamics has an far-reaching impact. Doesn't just affect this time, place, here, now, actually reverberates into antiquity, into the potentials of the future, across parallel timelines, into multiple dimensions. So these are things that have a huge impact on the everythingness of everything. And that is why it is appropriate to recognize that and to act from that viewpoint of like, this is significant and has an impact on all of us, because you're interconnected. You're interconnected as a being of pure light, and you're interconnected by being a part of the DNA structure. And that being a part of the DNA structure is like being in a symphony. It is something that you should look at as like, hooray, like what a magnificent opportunity and honor. I say, like, you passed the audition, hooray, congratulations, you have a body, like the baby came out of the womb, hooray, like you passed the audition, you're here. And you've lived for however many decades, hooray, you've passed the audition. That's very, very wonderful and very, very good. It is an honor to be a part of this larger genetic symphony. And then also there is responsibility to it of what you are experiencing and what you are sending out. And that's not only in terms of what physical substances or activities you might take that might affect your DNA behavior or its purity or whatever, but everything else. Your thought structures and what you think in each moment affects the behavior of your DNA. Your emotional state affects the behavior of your DNA. You get to higher levels of galactic citizenship, everything you're thinking and feeling, you're like, wow, by me thinking and feeling that, I'm sending out waves that are affecting other people. Sympathetic vibration, guitar strings being plucked over here, but vibrating all the way over to the pinky, recognizing that you're having a huge impact with everything that you're thinking and feeling. But I don't want any of you to be like, oh no, like too down on yourself because you had a bad day or you had a tantrum. And you're like, oh no, like I just ripped apart the fabric of reality because I got upset. Like, you know, whatever, I spilled my smoothie in the morning and ripped apart the fabric of reality because I got upset. Please don't be too hard on yourself on all of that, because you're still in the process of learning. Okay, so just huge love, radical self-compassion, radical forgiveness on all of that. So I want to go through my notes. The sun and its connection to consciousness. I also wanted to say there's a really beautiful part in the beginning of the recorded lesson about reality creation and unconditional love as being the lovemaking in the moment now, that lovemaking that results in the birth of the moment now. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the idea, that when you are completely in the moment now, and in that tone of unconditional love, receiving one unit of energy, sending out one unit of energy, and being completely embedded in the moment now, you are involved in reality creation. You are giving birth, whether you are male or female, or a planarian, or amoeba, something that does not have sexual reproduction. You are giving birth in the moment to the next moment. You are giving birth to time. You're giving birth to reality. And that is through this beautiful divine co-creative partnership with what we would call God, or the vibrating field of pure potential, and also with the sun and the stars and the light from the stellar network that is pure consciousness and pure awareness and pure timelines and pure possibilities. So when you are in love, you are literally creating and generating the moment now. So the sun has a connection to consciousness, emanations of timelines. It's a connection to unconditional love and to our creation of the moment. All right. That is very, very big and profound to even just internalize that. I haven't done that much drawing. Let me do a little bit of a drawing. This is about the singularity, and this also relates to new curriculum because I'm starting to draw these diagrams that are like this. P.S. If you're not already on board, please join the new class. It's on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Pacific time, Path of Light. That will blow your mind and in the most positive, wonderful way. So here I'm going to draw. Make sure I've got something that I'm drawing. Okay, good. I'm drawing with colors. Good. Let's draw 3 different things. First, let's draw the sun with its beautiful light beams shining off of it. I'm trying to be fast because I have so many things that I want to do. Oh, and I always collapse this window only so that for privacy's sake. The sun, the planet not drawn to scale. Put some little green continents there, continents not drawn to scale. And then you as a human, you all contain singularity or the singularity at the center of your being. And I will use this purple dot to represent the singularity. You have the singularity here, and you have the singularity here, and you have the singularity here. And all of those points are actually the same exact point. They are not separate points. They're all actually the same point. And if I clear all this out, here's how I draw this in this new model that is according to the class that I'm teaching now, Path of Light. Here's the singularity. I'm just making it a very emphasized giant purple dot. The sun has the singularity at its center, and the earth has the singularity at its center as well. And you have the singularity at your center as well. Make this a little stick figure so that you can kind of get a sense. All the same overlapping singularity. I took it dot, 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 all the way from over here, all the way from over here, all the way from over here, and superimposed them all on top of each other. This is one of the most profound pieces of information to really be able to internalize that really influences and colors everything about what the flying rainbow lasagna is. 3 different doorways that all lead to the same infinity. And the connection from the sun to your DNA is a connection of light. So basically light codes from the sun come and affect the subcellular structures that are your DNA inside of the nuclei of every one of your cells. The nuclei inside of every one of your cells does its own particular unique genetic dance. And what that does is affects the overarching energy field that surrounds your whole entire physical body. So everything that's going on a tiny subcellular level in your trillions of cells translates into a bigger change that is the overarching bubble of energy that is all around you. And that also relates to when you start to do the flying rainbow lasagna on a subcellular level, it changes your entire energy field from a torus into a flying rainbow lasagna. And that's what this painting over here is. I know it's in the background and it's slightly blurry, but what it shows is Earth that has this toroidal magnetic field that is, in my visual language, not being chopped in half like a grapefruit, but there's a new Earth emerging from it. And that new Earth has as its magnetic field the flying rainbow lasagna, the higher dimensional torus shape. And I affirm and assuage any fears that you have, that in the past you might have experienced a pole shift on this planet that was north-south to south-north, and then crustal displacement, erasure of complex civilizations, catastrophe, lots and lots of diminishments and perturbations and tidal waves and turbulence. This is not that type of pole shift. This is a different type of pole shift that is not just like here. This is magnetic pole, like north, south to south, north. Woof, like I made the entire, I made the bathtub slosh all over by flipping it upside down. This is not like that. This is more of a sense of the internal becoming the external, and then the external folding back into the internal. Can be actually a very peaceful, beautiful, and artistic unfoldment, not something that is synonymous with catastrophe. So in the online, the recorded lesson, I go all into supercoiling being the way that your genetic sweater is knitted and complexly is looping amidst itself. It's enough for me in this streamlined lecture and presentation to say your genetic sweater has many, many complex loops and is constantly furling, unfurling, splicing itself, replicating itself, unfurling itself, tightly coiling itself, untightly coiling itself, and has an enormous amount of genetic behaviors. One of the most important salient facts in this is that at a certain point of supercoiling, your DNA, let's get a DNA color, is a better DNA color here. Your DNA is created all of these toruses. Like here is kind of a donut shape, right? And, you know, so that's like, this is the cake of the donut. And then the other part is the whole of the donut. You have many, many, many of these toroidal donut shapes that kind of stack up. And this is part of the stage of coiling and supercoiling. You're not yet at a chromosome. So you coil it up a little bit and you become a torus, and you coil it up a little bit more and you become one of these donut shapes. And the point is, any place where you have a donut shape here, this would be the cross section of the donut. That's the cake of the donut. And then this is the donut hole, the tor of the torus. And I use these in my diagrams all the time. So that would be like a time vortex there and another time vortex. Any place where you have a torus, you can vibrate it into a flying rainbow lasagna shape. So in this case, we would begin to make this torus wiggle and oscillate back and forth or up and down. And what you end up getting is a flying rainbow lasagna. And the flying rainbow lasagna shape is the higher dimensional shape of the torus. And because you have so many tori at the levels of supercoiling in your DNA, you can literally have a flying rainbow lasagna that's like this. And then I'm going to draw a few more for you. Like I won't draw the whole entire screen full of them, but you can begin to imagine that you have many, many, many multiple flying rainbow lasagnas, even within, I'll draw us, this is your nuclear membrane. Within one nucleus of your cell, and then here's the cell membrane outside of your nuclear membrane. This is just in one cell of your body. You could have multiple, you could have 30,000 flying rainbow lasagnas oscillating back and forth at these levels of supercoiling. And that's just within one cell of your body, and your body contains trillions of cells. This leads to a large amount of increased complexity in what you can do with your DNA. So you are able to write new stories in co-creative partnership with your highest self perspective and with divine directives. And you can rectify the things that were never supposed to be a part of your genetic code, things that are about diseases, things that are about chronological aging, and things that are about the eventual destruction of your consciousness that is known as death. Not supposed to go this way into the membrane of death. You're supposed to go this way up the center of the time field diagram and realign with God and the source consciousness. And that's how our lives were always supposed to be. That was the quality of existence that we were always supposed to have in terms of having our life experience here. That's the 13,000 messages that have been waiting in your cosmic inbox, that literally God, the source, the divine presence, has been trying to send you all of these messages over the course of thousands of years, but there has been no signal on the genetic cell phone. Literally, the cells are not getting the messages that they need. And none of this has been by accident. All of this has been very, very much on purpose. And then what I did with Flying Rainbow Lasagna is created a reconnectivity. Again, everything is about freedom. So I'm not going to say like, you get connectivity, but no soup for you, or I'm going to give you connectivity, but I'm going to control what is said on the new media network. It will be, you know, whatever, like only certain broadcasts get through and other word, no censorship is what I'm trying to say. Not my own egocentrism, not capricious, doling out of connectivity, and also no censorship. So that is part of the cosmic law-abidingness that I am and that I do. And again, why I don't hide this or make this proprietary or hide this from anyone, because also let's say that this is a thought structure that, again, everything is connected. When you think a thought, it affects everyone, even though don't jump out the window if you have a meltdown and throw a tantrum because you spill your smoothie. You are affecting everyone with your anger, but don't worry, like you can give healing as well. But knowing that when I have a thought or do something like the flying rainbow lasagna, it's going to be out there. It's going to run wild. It is going to become a wild, undomesticated thought form that travels in existence and is available to all sorts of beings, including pathogenic beings that might be like, oh, great, let me do violence or try to harm someone else in some way. The real answer is that when harmful pathogenic beings with limited consciousnesses and in profound need of healing access or are exposed to the flying rainbow lasagna, they go to entropy, or the aspects of themselves that need to go to entropy go there faster. That is what really happens. So this does not become like, oh, great, a supercapacitation of something that is evil, wrong, bad, or pathogenic or needs to be healed. No, that is not what happens. The more lasagna that they're exposed to, or the more lasagna that they eat, it's like the more rectification that they eat or are exposed to, the more that the inner structures that are within them that are pathogenic, that are not supposed to be in existence, that are supposed to go to entropy, go to entropy. So this is a solution. It's like, you know, drinking a magical elixir, like this is the solution to everything. And you're, you know, they become more healed. Wait, I need to drink a little bit of my magical solution here. Hold on one second. This represents the elixir of flying rainbow lasagna, and they're like, oh, good, like, you know, whatever, some evil pathogenic things, like, I want to drink all of the lasagna elixir, be like, here, drink it, fantastic. It doesn't mean that they would be like, now I am super evil and I can do anything I want. It's like, no, it would actually mean that it would have more enforced cosmic law, more conformity with the greater structures of longevity and coherence of the divine mind, that they're parts of themselves that are unhealed and that need to go to peace would go to peace more. When you're doing this work in your own genetic heritage, in your own body, when I say go to peace, what you're really talking about is when there are unhealed traumas, like almost every genetic race or ancestry, race is not even the right word, but wherever your people come from biologically, almost everyone has had some profound trauma. Like there's the African Black diaspora, there's the Jewish diaspora, there's the Cherokee Trail of Tears, there's Ukrainian tortures that happened like 100 years ago, Holodomor, there's the profound injustices and distresses of the Australian Aborigines. Every single genetic family lineage has these profound traumas inside of them. And it is really up to us in this generation to say, I honor and respect and remember that those things happened to my ancestors. I am not going to reverberate and internalize the song of pain. That is something that happened many generations ago, but it is not something that I have to play with my instrument, my genetic piano of this body. It is something that I can bring into a state of quietude and peacefulness, because that is a big part of when you're starting to do the planetary inside to outside pole shift dance. You don't necessarily want to re-externalize all of your ancestral traumas, or your personal traumas, or the traumas of your particular family that, you know, lives on a particular street, you know, 123 Mockingbird Lane or Main Street. All of those levels of pain, instead of being like, endless negative time loops, you get to bring those volume to zero on those tracks of your life and instead bring up and exacerbate and make louder these other songs that are songs of longevity and coherence, basically like how to live a really long, really good life that is full of unconditional love, and the magic of being able to, magic supernatural capacitation of being able to create reality structures with your mind. Okay, so this is big. So what you are emanating affects other people, including unconditional love. What they're emanating affects you. You are in a reciprocal state of emanation and affecting one another. Interdimensional ethics arising from the truth that we live in a world of free will, and you cannot impose your will upon others, but we certainly are affecting one another's. So one another rather. So some of this has to do with, I talk about a clank metal spaceship. If you need a metal spaceship to get off the surface of your planet, you should not be getting off the surface of your planet. You actually should be in your own little zone, figuring your stuff out before you jump off your planet and bring your problems elsewhere. You got it? And that also relates to telepathy. If you need technological augmentation to amplify your mind and speak to other people that are either far away in space, or far away in time, you probably shouldn't be doing it, because you have to heal your stuff inside of you before you are even, before it is even appropriate for you to begin to interact with other beings in a positive way. Otherwise, you're just creating more negative time loops, more pain reverberations, more of these cycles of pain and suffering and degradation. That is not the intention. So the intention is that there are very well-designed firewalls in terms of genetics, thought structures, feeling structures, and interactivity. Be like, you stay over here until you figure out how to act, like a citizen, and then come over here and interact with everyone. So that's it. But Earth was artificially and unfairly sequestered. Other space races or places or time beings were artificially augmented and capacitated. So technology has been used in a way that has mixed up and mushed up the levels of responsibility, where those who are actually worthy have been blocked out of galactic interactivity and civilization, and those who are unworthy and are not ready yet have been totally interactive and in many ways empowered and creating the feelings of everything that's going on. They've been creating the ambiance. The unhealed ones have been creating the totality ambiance and determining who gets to even be a part of culture. And the ones who are the, people who are doing the actual spiritual work and the actual spiritual uplift are the ones that have been blocked out of that culture. It's totally out of balance, totally inverted, not the way that it is supposed to be doing it. In terms of freedom, this also has to do with personal self-cultivation and coming to certain levels of inner realization. It's why I act the way I do. I offer lasagna to people, but I cannot force it on people, because you have to come to your inner realizations through love, through acceptance, and through your own process. I cannot twist your arm and be like, you must better lasagna, or you better do it by Tuesday. No torture, no coercion. It must be done in freedom, and it must be done at your own pace and in the way that is comfortable to you, cannot be imposed upon you. And the ones that are like unhealed ones, they're like, good, don't try to impose lasagna on us. Like, we want to get a machete and chop off the heads of like the friendly Teletubbies. Like, no, don't do that. You're not allowed to do that. But you understand now, like, what the psychopathology mind structure is. That everything that I say in my teachings, they're like, good, we're going to use this as a justification to keep on not changing and being unhealed. And that none of that is what lasagna is about. In fact, lasagna and the presence of lasagna and my existence in the world has everything to do with things are going to change, kind of like whether you find it inconvenient or not. Like, it's going to, the reality structure is going to change. And that is part of the strength of the system. And the system is self-augmenting, like this beautiful, amazing biological organic supercomputer that we are a part of in terms of our DNA and our processing and the information that we contain. It is self-augmenting. So if something threatens the existence of this amazing time fabric, living time field, DNA, computational, larger biological computer, it self-augments. And it does so by creating things like the flying rainbow lasagna, like, This is, if I don't do something, something bad is going to happen. This whole thing is going to go down the toilet. Time to do something, invent the lasagna. And that is the microcosm of what I thought and felt also, as from my Aurora perspective outside of time, being able to perceive the difficulties and the end of life of the person that was in this body and what was happening as the events leading up to that moment and the repercussions leading away from that moment. If I don't do something, this whole thing is going to go down the toilet. It is time for me to do something. So my personal motivation and the larger motivation for longevity and coherence and sustenance and upholding of the larger time field all match together. And that's what it's like. In the piano, you have octaves. Wait, let me move my thing. I have so many things on my piano, and if you can hear it. This one is this. This one is this. I hope you can hear it. They're exactly the same chords, but just in different octaves. Play them together. Larger octave, smaller octave, or larger frequency, longer wavelength, smaller wavelength, nested frequencies. My smaller nested frequency matched perfectly with the harmonic frequency of the cosmos and all time everywhere. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Something's going to happen. We don't want to go down the toilet. Flying into lasagna. That is how these things work. So that goes to the sense of, in a totality state of freedom, you cannot make someone else do anything, you cannot force them to do something. You must allow each person to unfold as their own particular artistic plan, which is really God's plan, and that's the state of unconditional love. But as I've also, that's from the idealism state. I don't want anyone to be like, well, Aurora says, like, you just need to let everything unfold. Like, everybody, crazy people, grab your machetes, let's have a bloodbath. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm teaching at all, because up above from here, there is a higher perspective that says, yes, you allow things to unfold, but you don't learn your life lessons all over me, and you don't learn your life lessons all over the weak and the innocent, because they're otherwise, like, if you just let it be a free-for-all in that way with no consequences, then there would be certain levels of life that would never develop. These little tiny genetic piccolos would never develop, because everybody would always be like smashing them down. The gentle, fragile little creatures would never have an opportunity to become and to do what they need to do. So everyone here right now, infants and toddlers of consciousness, just beginning to learn how to directly create reality, beginning to recognize and learn the levels of connectivity. And this is similar to the early days of the internet, when you had to recognize, like, wow, you knew something. If you connect to Napster, I don't know if you guys remember Napster, file sharing service where you can get music for free, or like how people nowadays watch like TV shows and other things that are subscriber based for free from pirate sites. If you connect to this pirate site, you might also download your favorite episodes of whatever TV show you want, and you also might get terrible viruses that destroy your hard drive at the same time, or offer someone else access to your computer. Get it? Viruses that offer backdoors, access to your genetic computer. These are things that you don't want. So genetic firewalls, essential to have firewalls, encryption, password protection, and limiting what you're broadcasting and sharing with others, and also limiting what you are receiving with others. Be cautious about the mentalities, values, and behavioral systems of the beings with whom you are contacting or interacting with. That's it. So I basically say to people, like, in your spiritual work, in your telepathy, in any type of communication that is not voice to voice, like talking to someone with a physical face, in anything that is like a dream, imagination exercise, or inner realm experience, the things that you interact with should have a coherent heart feeling, a particular love tone. Love tone should be able to feel the love tone, which is this reciprocal energy giving and receiving unconditional love that is the currency of the cosmos. And it also should have a unique energy signature. Something comes along to you in your mind or in your dreams, or wants to channel through you, or any of those things, be like, okay, wait, before we go any further in this conversation, do you have a love tone? And also, what's your unique energy signature? Because the energy signature is kind of like, I'm pretending this is my cell phone. What's your caller ID? Like, who is calling me? And also, do you have a love tone? And if you will say, like, here's my unique energy signature, like my unique genetic fingerprint, here's who I am. And also, here's my love tone. Then I'd be like, okay, like, let's talk. I'm open to a conversation. I'm open to learning more. If they don't have that, it is not something that you wish to be interactive with, because it is most likely technology-based, a synthetic telepathy, or one of these artificially augmented organisms that is in a very erroneous way sending signals around, that connecting things and sharing information, doing things that are not supposed to be connected. To contrast, me, I send signals around and connect things that are supposed to be connected. I follow the divine plan. I follow the conductor. The conductor is actually saying, we want to connect this level of reality with this level of reality, share 10 units of energy over here. This is actually supposed to be over here. We've got EOP, energy out of place. EOP, E-O-O-P. Over here, we want to get that EOP to be energy in place over here. And I do flying rainbow lasagna, the bending and folding of time space, take that energy from where it's not supposed to be and put it over here to where it is supposed to be. And I follow those directives and I follow that pattern and that command joyfully and joyously. It's my total job joy to follow that, because doing that makes the entire world a golden castle to live in, as opposed to one tiny little safe zone to live in, and then the rest of everything being a nightmare of disorganization and danger. You're entitled to make your own choices in your life. This is emphasized in the notes. That means the rate at which you vibrate, what you emanate, what's your belief system, your choices, and you also get to make choices about with whom you surround yourself. That's a big part of like cosmic citizenship. People over here are learning their life lessons in a benighted realm. You don't have to be with them. If they're learning the lessons of like beheadings and machetes and things like that, you don't have to be around them. You can remove yourself from the situation, especially if your inner eye tells you, I see the future and I see like the levels of crapitude that are going to happen here. I'm going to get out of here. But what if you're locked in a box together with them? Then the rules, of course, change. But the basic cosmic laws are about the frequency stratification. You seek your stratum, your layer of being, like the layer of violence and psychopathology. That's down here. You're like, I really don't want to hang out with those people. I really want to hang out with these people up here. And that's me. Like, I am just not used to hanging out with psychopaths at all. And even just incarnating here through backbending, because doing the flying rainbow lasagna to me is kind of like backbending, reversing into time in certain ways, diving backwards into time, and coming into this level of human society and human social dynamics. In a lot of ways, has been a huge learning curve and a huge eye-opener. I made this faces like this. Huge eye-opener, because there were so many things that I am not acculturated to, even in terms of like lies, dishonesty. I've already mentioned psychopathology, mind disease, and many, many levels of violence that I was not prepared for at all, because I usually do not hang out with people that are on that level. And then secondarily, on the sense of programming of the genetic computer, or doing your math homework wrong, or having erroneous signals. I'm like, I don't hang out with people that don't do their math homework correctly. Like, it's like if you are used to being at the college level of math and learning and teaching and sharing and growing, like everyone there knows 1 + 1 = 2, and you don't have to argue about it, and that is already established fact, and they all agree to that. That's the level that I come from. And to kind of come into this level where some people are still arguing that 1 + 1 = 5, and that they're going to make all these complex justifications, like that is just very, very difficult for me. And just there's for me has been a lot of disconnect from having to be like, but none of that even makes sense. Like, none of that even makes sense. Like, my shoulders go down like this a lot in exasperation. So that has been one of the greatest challenges on this particular mission or assignment for me, to even comprehend and interact with those unhealed levels of viewpoint that intentionally do their math homework wrong and don't yet know or care about or choose to participate in the realm of empirical truth, which is this realm up here, where it's like, I had just erroneously presumed that everybody wanted to actually know that 1 + 1 = 2, and that they wanted to do their math homework correctly. Apparently not. And that is like me being very facetious and lighthearted for something that is devastating. It's like, if you remember the first time you were a little child and you learned about lies, and someone told you like, there will be ice cream, and then there was no ice cream. And you're like, they lied. And the disappointment and how disheartening that was. It's been rather disappointing and disheartening to even interact with creatures on this level that intentionally do their math homework wrong. So I already showed you this painting, The Birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and its significance because that really represents my entry into, I painted it in 2012, but it represents the events that have been ongoing since 2001 because I came in like one day very suddenly, and the significance of that. There's a new DNA dance step that I have invented and come here to share with everyone that has DNA, and you could also translate that to everyone that has any torus anywhere in their energy system. So it counts for the planet. The planet, you know, contains organisms that have DNA, but the planet itself has a magnetosphere. Let's also talk about the sun and the stars. They have heliospheres, giant toroidal energy fields all around them, or an atomic structure that has a torus or multiple tori, tiny subatomic levels or molecular levels. All of these things might not necessarily be containing DNA itself, but and can do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna higher dimensional maneuver of transforming torus into DNA and gaining an additional degree of freedom. So if your DNA is like an alphabet and you have a limited way of putting together the letters to be able to put together a book and say something, when you add another dimension, little ant jumping off of the surface of time and perceiving and jumping over blockages, you can twist and splice and rearrange the letters of the alphabet into whole new configurations. And what that means is with Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you can rewrite the genetic code. And I tell everyone this is an encouragement not to rewrite the genetic code into random new self-serving combinations, but to have them be respectful and harmonically integrated with the way that things are supposed to be shaped, the story that is supposed to be upheld in reality. And that is a reality structure that serves you and also serves every other living organism, because I'm telling you, don't just want to create comfort and ease and convenience for yourself. You really do want to make things that are beautiful and positive. I'm feeding my dog cookies. Beautiful and positive for the entirety of all embodied organisms, including my little dog. So the amazing news regarding the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is that since 2001, the shackles limiting humanity and others have been removed. These genetic shackles or imprisonments that were intentionally put into humanity in terms of thought structures and preconceptions about what is possible in reality have been removed. And that's been for the past 20 years, guys. Like, yes, you've been free actually for 20 years, but the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is like a violin or any complex instrument where you have to learn, you have to become a virtuous virtuoso, and you have to learn how to use it effectively. And it's really not loving and compassionate to expect yourself to learn to do it in one day. I'll tell this story really fast because I'm trying to head into my 15 more minutes. I'm trying to head into that, unless I might get a text that tells me I have a little bit more time. My deadline. I was once at a child's birthday party and they received a child-size violin. I think it was like purple, and I think it had unicorns on it or something like that. And they were so excited to get it, their eyes lit up, and they took it and they did like this with the bow, and it went like eat, and they took it, they handed it back to the person, and they were like, it's broken. And we all laughed like, oh, how charming. And we said, no, sweetheart, please take the violin. It's not broken. It just takes time to learn how to play it. So that is what I say to all of you in terms of what is Flying Rainbow Lasagna and how to perform genetic mastery with the vibrating strings of your DNA, your cellular architecture, and your bubble of energy as you move through time. That your body and your layers of being are an amazing instrument, an amazing gift that is given to you, and that it takes time to really learn how to play it with artistry. It takes time to learn musical formalism, to learn to read music, that is when we have an activated inner Christ chakra, and you can read a person like a book. Again, most of the people who are reading level and have that level of reading comprehension, mostly they've graduated and they're not here in the first grade, which is where you read like See Spot Run. You just start to learn about things. Mostly they're not here, but they are in existence, and they're definitely at the graduate level, and they're definitely wishing to help everyone who is here to level up. Like, when somebody reads you a book and you're a little tiny child and you can barely make out the very first word, but like they're reading to you, they know how to read. They could read War and Peace. That is the level of inner sight that you will also achieve through your mastery and your artistry and your virtuosity. Be able to see the complex patterns of time directly, and then be able to play the substrate of time in the same way that you can play a harp. Like you're moving your fingers across these time events and causing reverberations and causing beautiful music to be emanated in perfect harmonic patterns. So to be able to read music, tap, 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 listen to the great conductor, because you're not just playing in a contextless vacuum, even though you might practice as a garage musician in your own garage. Practice a lot on your own, and then eventually you connect with the larger band, all totally appropriate. And virtuosity, virtuoso, I use these words because virtuous has as its root word the sense of good heart, well-meaning. Not self-serving, not egocentric, mad person, mad creature that is just like a bull in a china shop trying to smash everything apart. But really, which is why it's eye-opening to me when I meet the creatures that don't want to do math correctly. There's a joy in doing the math correctly, making these harmonic structures, because that song, like This Is How We Talk in Heaven, like when you get it and you fit together in these perfect polygonal patterns, it's the most amazing, super uplifting, super fulfilling, life-affirming experience that you can possibly have. It is euphoric, it is elative, it affirms everything about your life and your existence. It gives meaning and purpose to every single thing that you've ever done and experienced, and you're doing it with other beautiful people. That is what the symphony of life is. I don't know if you've ever been blessed to be in a band or in a symphony where you're like, I'm in the symphony and I'm playing my little part, that guy, all playing their part. This music sounds awesome, amazing. And it's like, you're so honored to be a part of it. You're so honored to play your part in it, to sound good, you're proud of the overarching song that is created, the song of reality. That's what it is to be on the stellar network. That's what it is to be a genetic virtuoso. So it takes time to learn how to do that. It takes time to internalize that. And also you do need partners. Like you can play on your own in the garage, but then you do need telepathic and genetic partners for the rapport of sending out and receiving back, and learning how to coordinate all these things together. Just skipping ahead in my notes. My dance steps that I perform as a flying rainbow lasagna, even if I did not communicate formally with like writing or making videos or whatever, are affecting all of the other people that I'm emanating these flying rainbow lasagna waves. And this is not an imposition of my presence here on other people. It is my own genetic self-expression that I am not only allowed to do, but that I am supposed to do, and that I come here and offering this music and these new patternings to people if they want to choose it and align with it. And if they don't want to choose it and align with it, I respect those choices. That is real freedom, and that is real respect, and that is in accordance with cosmic law. So for those who gravitate to or align with these ideas, I thank you profoundly. Thank people for watching my videos, because you're literally ingesting my ideas, ingesting lasagna. You're also taking messages and directives that come from the cosmic inbox that I am articulating and bringing here. And then also everything about me is that I'm really like, something, I don't want to just check the emails and then like send it all out to you guys. I want you guys to do password recovery reset for your own email inbox and get access to your own cosmic huge backlog of information with the light codes and personal transformative energies that you should have been receiving all along. So for me to be an intermediary, go out and get the groceries and bring them back, like, thanks for the avocados, Lord, these are awesome, and I love that. But what I really want is for you to be able to gain access to the cosmic supermarket yourself, get all of that wonderful nutrition to come into you, and for you to be completely self-guided in that. So the flying, so that's mostly part one, and part two about the flying rainbow lasagna and new vibrations, that basically there are all of these new vibrations that are available to the species on this planet and elsewhere, that the flying rainbow lasagna is not just a new dance movement for DNA for organisms here, it is a new dance movement for organisms everywhere. And a big part of the definition of what is lasagna, one of the major characteristics of what is lasagna, is bringing together formerly divergent realms. An organization or organism that grows and exists over here in space-time, and one that grows over here in space-time, ordinarily would be separated by vast distances of time or space, but that now can be brought together for some level of communication or connectivity. Very, very hugely positive stuff if we're doing it in accordance with the great conductor, tap, 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 and sharing the information that is actually supposed to be shared. So again, all of this is meant to be done non-technologically. All of this is meant to be done for the purposes of being conforming to that larger musical structure, rectification of anything that has been artificially separated, because that's what a lot of this is. Kind of like these two things were actually supposed to be talking to each other the whole time, but there's been a blockade. Let's get over that blockade. Let's rejoin these two things back together. Let's make it possible for those levels of companionship is not even the word, but like reciprocal support to happen, because literally you are limbs or extensions, attenuations of the same organism. You're made of light, you're made of photons, photons as feelers, extensions of the stellar network. And you might be wiggling over here and something else is wiggling over here. And you're not supposed to have like numbness. Like if you have something, a sleeve that's too tight and like, I can't feel my fingertips, my sleeves are too tight. Not being able to have connectivity between different levels of consciousness from some type of genetic or time-based blockade would be like numbness of the larger galactic level of consciousness that should be able to be connective. Let me get to this question. Pedro says, flooding all inboxes with Merkabahs, FRLs, and love tone, unconditional love. Beautiful, Pedro. I appreciate you and your spirit and your ability to articulate so very, very, very much. Yes. May the cosmic inboxes, like you click, you're like, get the password recovery, click this link to recover your password, you get it. And then you click on it and like all of these Merkabahs are flowing in, all of this beautiful unconditional love. That will be certainly amazing. So I already got to the sense of you not being beholden to your ancestral consciousness of either internalized traumas or internalized diseases. Take the best that comes from not only your genetic embodied lineage, but your soul lineage. And these are two separate things. So my physical, biological, embodied genetic lineage in this body is Caucasian, literally from the Caucasus Mountains that are in like Western Russia, all right? That is where the biological ancestry of this human female form comes from. But on a soul, so not from Australia or Africa. On a soul level, I, of course, have had lives or have concurrent lives in all of these different places. Africa, Australia, the ancient Atlantis, future star civilizations. You don't worry about it. If you don't know all of those things particularly about you, you might be partitioned for good purposes, because you might need to just be like, just focus on the here and now. Just focus on who you are here and now and your life lessons here and now, knowing that you will gain that information, gain that connectivity, and gain the profound realizations that happen when you recognize how much your life matters. But just for right now, it's enough to be able to say, if whatever the appearance of your physical biological container is in the moment, please don't over-identify with just your biological lineage, because you really are much, much more than that. So you're more than just your biological lineage. You're your soul lineage that is really across time, space, and dimensionality. So you honor all of the best of all the lineages that you're a part of. You honor the best physical characteristics of what your people come from, like whatever, the ability to digest lactose, like, yes, like that's a good characteristic, but not other frailties, like, whatever, being allergic to bee pollen or something like that, whatever is your genetic vulnerability. So you take the good stuff and you flying rainbow lasagna, transform and rewrite in a virtuous way the things that are not great. Usually the things that are not great are genetic diseases, not even something like an allergy, but things that are against longevity. Big takeaway that I'm heading into the home stretch here. Being cut off from the source is an unnatural state. The sense of people being in amnesia, forgetting or not knowing that they're God, although it is a beautiful journey that we are on of the remembering of God's self. Like you're getting to that I am God moment when you're like, I'm God. Yes, you are God. Spoiler alert, you are God. And that is the consciousness culmination of this whole entire beautiful journey of self-cultivation and interactivity with God's self. God's self is also like my dog and the tree out there and all of you. It is an amazing and profound journey. But being cut off from the source while we are on that journey is an unnatural and unintended state. That is the genetic imprisonment. Those are the shackles that were essentially put upon humanity for a long, long time ago. And that as we are now flying rainbow lasagna-ing, you have the capacity to reconnect in every moment, that this divine presence will begin to direct your consciousness and your behavior through each moment. And this really relates now to the sense of artificial intelligence or some kind of 5G wetware, artificial augmented reality or virtual reality, uploading your consciousness or influencing you to something that is superseding the natural intelligence that is up in the sky, that is the sun and the stars and pure light, that is what is supposed to be directing your behavior every day, not any kind of nano implantation or artificial neurology or artificial thought form system. Just big, big, big. The importance of inner silence, stilling the mind, and not using the artificial and flawed OS human, which is an operating system that is mostly verbal and that mostly has been disconnecting humanity from God consciousness. So the verbalization mind of whatever culture you're from, English or Chinese or French, the process of using language itself is a distancing of self from God consciousness, and that God consciousness and really Christ consciousness is nonverbal. This crystal that I'm always holding up, it is not translatable. The insights that come into here are literally nonverbal insights, and they are not translatable into verbal language, even though I do my best. But that's why I often paint or draw or make music or dance to be able to put these things into words. And the flying rainbow lasagna as a bridge as to how to get past these blockages on a genetic level and on a level of mental programming. That flying rainbow lasagna puts us into the next dimension, the next highest dimension. And that just so like a little animal that jumps off the surface of a flat leaf is now in the next highest dimension. And then you navigate and you exist there. So this is not synonymous with death or any kind non-existence or any kind of thing like that. It is a larger expansion of your perception and a larger capacitation, both behaviorally and in your experience levels. You can do more, you can see more, you can get more stuff done. And of course, you are responsible for all of those things. Any place where you have a Taurus, you can apply the flying rainbow lasagna. That's big. That will reverberate throughout this class. And by placing, so the singularity at the center of the sun, at the center of the earth, at the center of you, the real comprehension here is that by embodying these truths about what singularity or the singularity is, you are able to have it be here and here at the same time, inside of you and inside of the planet at the same time, inside of you and inside of all light at the same time, inside of you and inside of the center of the sun at the same time. There ends up being no space between you and the sun, not 93 million miles, not a light impulse has to go across 93 million miles in order to get to me all the way over here from the sun. There is no space between me and the sun. There is no space between you and Alpha Centauri or any other name brand star or a little tiny star that only has like, star X3 J 22.6 that doesn't even have a name, that we know about. I already got to the blockages and operating system stuff, which are limiting ideas about time, space, and about who's out there. You guys all know that there's life beyond this planet. I want to sing that song, Life on Mars. There's life on Mars and every other place too. There's a lot of life out there, but you've been artificially disconnected from them. And again, I got to the sense of wanting to capacitate you. I'm a bridging the information that comes from the sun and the stars, bringing in the groceries, and it's my joy to do so. My real intention with these classes and lessons and sharing is to capacitate you to be able to get out to the grocery store too and get whatever nourishment you want, not only the avocados that I bring back in, but whatever is the ideal nourishment for you, the idea structures for you. Flying Rainbow Lasagna as universal to everywhere and every when, making these higher levels of capacitation and responsibility available to lots of different new organisms. Taking responsibility for your emanations. Really, the higher dimensional viewpoint and taking responsibility for your emanations goes hand in hand with seeing, recognizing, and accepting that the world is not a random collection of nonsense controlled by like a capricious, egocentric deity. Not at all. That it is a beautiful, incredibly complex, well-designed, highly intelligent, genius level supercomputer, for lack of a better word, interactivity system of huge complexity and positivity. And you start to see that there's a energy pattern, a meaningfulness to everything that is going on. If it's not evident to you right now from your present level of perspective, just remain faithful, or remain in that present knowingness and hopefulness. Like, it will make sense. It will make sense. Even if it doesn't make sense to you right now, you will get the information and you will get access to all of these huge patterns, and you'll be able to see the causality factor. That is connected to that, and that happened because of that, and all these things connected together because of all the things that have been happening. So now we can create a genetic or consciousness bridge with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Get around the time blockade. I'm going to end on this because this is big, and I think Cheeky might need a WALK. Reactivate on a mass level your inner Christ chakra, your connection to seeing time directly, to reactivate your Christ consciousness, which is clear insight, clear and direct perception connected to God's source, a galactic unity consciousness, the waking up of all of these inner eyes that were artificially diminished by genetic modification. This is the return of Christ consciousness to Earth. This is what is happening right here, right now. This is what is happening in this moment. That is so unbelievably amazing and gratifying. And I hope that you feel the positivity of this moment, the positivity, like not the amazing potential, amazing positive potential radiating off from this moment to be able to not only create reality structures, but that this is the fulfillment of the great expectation of healing, creating of justice, righting of wrongs, rewarding of good behavior, and alignment with the larger galactic Christ meta consciousness being. Sorry, my dog is crying down here. That she really, really wants to go out, and that's why I'm just having a little bit of trouble focusing here. The reawakening of your inner Christ chakra, Flying Rainbow Lasagna, genetic rearranging, reality rearranging, becoming a genetic virtuoso, the reawakening of your capacity to see and affect time directly, and the capacitation to project and participate in a much, much larger, more expansive, more positive world and more positive reality, maybe than it has even been imagined. Huge good stuff in this world right now. And I think that we need to focus on that and be reminded of that as we've been through many traumas and many diminishments and huge amounts of suffering and huge amounts of loss. This is the goal that we are here experiencing. Pedro says, love the lasagna, and I always appreciate you very much. Says, thanks for changing my mind from defeating the putis to healing them. And I do agree with that this is a journey of healing them, and also be aware of the tendency of narcissists to be like this. Give me all your healing juice. Me. I'm a baby with a poopy diaper. No one's going to be happy. I'm going to be crying cosmically until you guys fix me. That's like what the narcissist has as its self-centered need. No one's going to be happy until I get healed. And I also want you to give me, I call it all the therapy juice. Okay, it's like, sit down on the couch, tell me about your mother. I want all the therapy juice. That it prioritizes its own narcissistic healing above any of its victims that it has created in suffering. So I do definitely align with the sense of defeating the putis by sending them to entropy. This is a healing that they experience, but also please do not fall into the trap of trying to heal a narcissist. That narcissism is pathogenic self-centeredness, that they're so much about me, but my pain and my misery and the bad things that happen to me that I need to talk about a lot and have recognition of, without recognizing, like, how about all the people that you raped? And how about all the people that you chopped off their heads with their machetes? And that beautiful planet full of fuzzy Teletubbies that you stabbed with your knives also. They're like, no, I want to talk about my trauma and everything bad that happened to me. So all of this healing must be contextualized, and the victims must also be recognized and healed from their traumas too, and not deprioritize, like, oh yes, those pesky victims, we'll get to them later. Like, those innocent victims, we'll get to them later. Like, healing the pathogenic crazy guy, let's heal that first. So big on that. So it is about healing the putis, and that is a gift. Like, the greatest gift that can actually happen is if they just decide to go to entropy. Like, just go to entropy. Do not pass go. Just go there immediately, without any of this negotiations and wrangling, because that's more gratifying and will give you more greatness than a golden castle. And Pedro says, I understood that sending them to entropy was the healing they need. Absolutely. You totally get it, Pedro. So yeah, just maybe maybe languaging might have been a problem. Fighting against the putis locks you into a constant thing versus thing and a thing versus thing. But sending them to entropy, which is a rescinding of energy and awareness from them, so that they just go into a state of 0 degrees Kelvin, essentially. And also all of that energy that they had, that they took from their victims, give it back to the Teletubbies, please. Give it back to the fuzzy tubbies that are these nice, innocent piccolos that got stolen from quite badly. That is the activity of what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. So it's a beautiful self-expression. It's a dance. It's not a genetic violence in any way. And when I do this dance, it is taking energy away from the genetic proclivities that should go into a peaceful, non-existent state, and sending the energy back to where it's actually supposed to be. Energy out of place gets sent back to where it is supposed to be, becomes energy in place, or just energy. Joanne says, thank you, Aurora. I appreciate all you do. I do feel the divine frequency. It's amazing. So excited. So pleased that you can hear that, even up in my stumbling articulation. And she says, tell the putis to go meditate. The putis do their math homework wrong on purpose. They're like, we know that 1 + 1 does not equal 5, and we're doing it wrong on purpose, which to me is just has been just unimaginable, but that's what I've been facing face to face. And Chris McNutt, thank you for being here, says, thanks for your patience, Cheeky. Big love for everybody and the lasagna. Thank you so much. Yes, you guys can tell Cheeky is feeling a little agitated. She's been waiting patiently. I'm going to take her for that WALK now. I just really want to end and reemphasize on the sense of, since 2001, the activation of the inner Christ chakra and the reawakening of the inner eye, the eye of time, and the capacitation that comes from that has been available to us all. It is simply a level of personal artistry that must be attained. It is an attainment. So it's not something that's being kept from anyone, or you're not being punished in any way. It just takes effort to get to that level of attainment, but it is here. It is here for us. And I know that the past several years, again, have been like, there's been a lot of darkness, a lot of suffering, and a lot of more layers of trauma for people to heal. So please do not be disheartened. Please put your spine up, and please be continually reaffirmed in recognition of the truth that it is inevitable to regain and reconnect your capacitation, connecting to light directly, seeing time directly, affecting time directly, and doing your own rectification dance as part of the cosmic symphony. So thank you so very much. I open the floor to any other questions. If not, the text did not come in, but I still think that I have to go on to my next wonderful experience of the day. So if there's no other questions, then I will end the recording for right now. Say profound thanks to everyone who is part of this class and everybody who watches my videos, and also re-invitation. The Path of Light is a new curriculum that has everything to do with reimagining and rediagramming the singularity and how that relates to each one of us in our journeys. And really, the more that I look around at the world of physicality and matter and structure, the more that I see miraculous, divine organization and intelligence everywhere. And it is my total joy to share with you these insights about the miracle of life that is ongoing all around us. So please join me at Saturdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and you can connect with me, and I'll also include the enrollment form that is in the description of this video. Thank you so much, everyone.